and welcome back to another episode of Girls on Deck. I'm Kayla Burge, as always joined by Hannah Russo, and here with Noah Kemper. Noah, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Of course, we're glad to have you.
And we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. As March Madness comes to a close, we're nearing the NBA playoffs with the Utah Jazz leading in the power rankings in the number one slot. Noah, how do you think the Jazz plan to maintain that number one slot as they go through the rest of their season and into playoffs?
I mean, the Jazz so far have looked unstoppable, and I think a key part of the success to continue is their team chemistry, as all the players just have a great job knowing each other. They've had 3 All-Stars so far from the NBA draft. They had Donovan Mitchell, they had Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley, and they have so much success leading into the playoffs, I think.
I definitely agree with you, but a lot of people are also shocked that the Lakers aren't in that number one slot because they're usually the team to beat. Do you think they're going to make a comeback up from number 4, or are they just going to hang out and let someone new be the new face of the NBA?
Well, I think they haven't been number 1 so far because, you know, the injuries piling on from LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So I feel like once, you know, they get rested, they get back into their playing spot, I think they eventually will move up in the power rankings. But without them on the court right now, I think I can't move them past the Utah Jazz.
Now, you know, we're only getting closer to the playoffs. So do you think the Jazz can hold this spot, or do you think that they will find a way to mess it up somehow?
I think going into the playoffs, they will hold the number 1 spot. I don't see any team catching up with them or surpassing their record. But in the playoffs, the Lakers are a different story. So we'll see there. But for now, I don't see anyone stopping the Jazz.
Yes, no, of course. Now, in the Eastern Conference, it's a battle between the Nets and the 76ers. Now, do you think the Nets adding all these players, Blake Griffin, you know, the team that they have, do you think that they can really secure that number 1 spot? Or do you think the 76ers are going to give them a run for their money?
I definitely think the Nets can wrap up the number 1 spot with the new signing of LaMarcus Aldridge. There's no saying, you know, what can stop them now, as they just need everyone healthy and ready for the playoffs. And I definitely think they can wrap up that number 1 spot.
So who do you think in the end is going to be Eastern, Western? Who do you think is going to be the conference finals?
I think the Nets will make it out of the East, and as much as it hurts to say, I think the Lakers will make it out of the West for a Nets-Lakers finals.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much the trend. But hey, you never know. Anything could happen in basketball, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. Now, going into, you know, we've talked about how different teams are coming out on top. You see the Suns in a position that they haven't been in forever. And, you know, there's a lot of team members that are part of that reason. So, Noah, I want to know, who was your most surprising player of this season, or just in this past week even?
Well, for the season so far, it has to be rookie Anthony Edwards. He did have a slow start to the season, but he's progressed greatly with the Minnesota Timberwolves, averaging 17.5 points per game, including a 42-point outing the other week against the Phoenix Suns. I think he's really growing into his role, and I think he has contention for Rookie of the Year.
Awesome. Hannah, what do you think?
I was going to go with veteran player Donovan Mitchell. He's had an outstanding last month, and he's been one of the leaders for the Utah Jazz. But he's also one of the few players that's been left off the list for the MVP conversation, and I think he has a lot to add, and he's done so much to help bring the Jazz to this number 1 spot, so he needs to be a name that's being talked about.
Noah, do you agree with this?
I do agree with this. I think Donovan Mitchell has led the team, the Utah Jazz, to like such a great run in the playoffs, or to the playoffs. And I think his name should be mentioned in the MVP finals. He hasn't even been talked about, and I think there should be more talk about him.
Now, is there another player that you think that is also not being talked about that could be a potential MVP candidate?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's Russell Westbrook. I think so much shade has been thrown his way for no reason. And he just broke the Washington Wizards triple-double record with 35 points, 14 rebounds, and an astonishing 21 assists. Like, that is just absolutely incredible. He so far averages a triple-double this year with 21.8 points, 10.4 assists, and 10.1 rebounds. Like, that is insane, and no one's really talking about him or even considering him for MVP.
Yeah, no, definitely. I really think, there's a lot of players this season that you're seeing show out that, now back in a normal setting, back out of the bubble, they're really showcasing what they have. And I think they deserve to be recognized. Russell Westbrook, as you said, a great player, Donovan Mitchell, all the same. Now, another big, the trade deadline had passed March 25th, and that a lot has happened. The Lakers finally picked up Andre Drummond from the Cavaliers. Now, he's a two-time All-Star center. Now, Noah, what do you think of this trade or this deal?
I think Andre Drummond will be a great fit for the Los Angeles Lakers. I think he'll fill in greatly for the absence of Anthony Davis for the time being, but eventually I think he will pick up the slack for the struggling center Marc Gasol, who's only averaged 4.8 points a game. So I think he will fit in greatly. I think he will eventually become the starting center for the team, playing alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So I think they will give every team in the West a run for their money.
Absolutely. Now, what do you think how his absence from now the Cavaliers affects them? They were a team that's already been falling apart. Do you think it just kind of like stuck the knife in further?
I think at this point it will be a struggling decline for the Cavaliers, as they might start to look at, starting to tank for a top 5 pick in the NBA draft.
Absolutely. So do you think that they're a very far gone team, or do you think that they still have a chance to bounce back? It depends on, of course, office and stuff, but.
I mean, with, the production of Colin Sexton, it is possible for them to rebound, but they were already spiraling, and with the loss of obviously an all-star, it's just going to look harder and harder to overcome that.
For sure. Frank Vogel, the coach for the Lakers, has announced that he thinks Drummond is one of the league's best centers. So moving him over looks like he's going to help the Lakers in where they're struggling with their centers and just putting more points up on the board.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's definitely beneficial to the Lakers. I mean, at this point, you're seeing teams like the Lakers and the Nets only make moves that will absolutely benefit them. And the teams that have to be on the other side of these deals, it's unfortunate for them. Now, to bring it back to Florida, I want to talk a little bit about the Miami Heat. I know we didn't discuss this before, but I have to bring them up. Now, where do you think they stand in all of this? Do you think they make another run for the playoffs, or they're not quite there yet?
I think this is very hard to judge. The Miami Heat, I think currently they sit 8th in the East. And I mean, a team that doesn't even have a 500 record, it's hard to judge them. They obviously have the talent with Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, but it's hard to see them going far when they sit 8th in the East and might not even make the playoffs. But I think they will make a push late in the season. I don't believe they will have the title run that they had last year.
Now, do you think the addition of Victor Oladipo to the Miami Heat will benefit them in the long run, or do you think it's not going to do enough for them?
I definitely think it will benefit them. Maybe not right away, but I feel like as he sets into his, his role, his position, I feel like eventually it will benefit them. And the three of them could be a great trio with, Jimmy Butler again, Bam, and Victor. I think, they could be a great team, but I don't know if it's enough to overcome, the stacked team that the Nets have or the chemistry that the Jazz have in the West. And I don't know if they're just that, contending team. I feel like they're still missing that one piece there to kind of push them into the contention.
I absolutely agree. I don't think they come anywhere close to a LeBron type team or, Nets team or even, at this point, a Jazz team. But I do like the addition of Oladipo. I think it's going to be beneficial to them, maybe not even this season, but next season. And I think the Heat have always been consistent in getting back to where they need to be. If they're on the bottom, they're going to find a way back. And I think that's something in sports that's hard to find. A lot of teams fall and it's very hard for them to get back. And I feel like the Heat have always kind of been consistent and all right, we're not doing so good, let's figure out how to make it better.
Yeah, they continue to find different ways to grow and make their franchise better so that they can go for that playoff run and grab that title.
Absolutely. Now we'll see if you're correct about the Nets Lakers playoffs. We're only just over a month away from the beginning of it, so I'm super excited for that super excited to see the rest of the NBA season. Now, thank you so much, Noah, for joining us. And when we come back, of course, we always love having you. And when we come back, we're going to be discussing baseball as we are just one day away from opening day.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying today's episode on Hitting the Field Network. On my show, Take Me Out to the Podcast, we're bringing you the latest in MLB news and some incredible interviews with some incredible people, including Bobby from Outta Here Baseball, Bailey from Foolish Baseball, Dawson Wright, Alec Palmer from Momentum, and so many more. Be sure to tune in to Take Me Out to the Podcast every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, only on HTFN.
And we're back to discuss our favorite sport, the MLB Major League Baseball, as opening day starts tomorrow. I couldn't be more excited. I know Hannah and I are watching two different games, but we're going to be watching all day for sure. I'm super excited. Now, something I want to know, I want to start out, is an amazing story of this season. Trey Mancini, right fielder for the Orioles, was diagnosed last April with colon cancer at the age of 27. Now, it came out of nowhere for him. He was just doing a regular team physical, and it showed that he had stage 3 colon cancer. Now, he didn't think, and when he was talked to in interviews, he was like, I didn't think this was even possible for someone my age. His father had colon cancer, but he thought it was something that mainly affected people over 50. And, that's something that we're discovering now that's not as uncommon anymore, showing that men in their 20s and 30s are getting colon cancer more often. And, he just went through the past. So instead of playing the season with his friends, and being a part of the ride, he underwent surgery and 6 months of chemo. And, he's an absolute trooper. Now he really wants to raise awareness for colon cancer. And, another thing that I thought was amazing, I mean, this whole story, just his spirit and everything.
Yeah.
The Baltimore Orioles fans helped raise more than $80,000 for the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. I apologize if I butchered that pronunciation, but I mean, it's just been so awesome. And it's another story that just shows how, this is all bigger than sports. And, now he's cancer-free at the age of 29, so it's been a long year, and it's amazing that he's cancer-free, and he's back to playing baseball, which I think is the most phenomenal thing about this entire story, is that he came back. He just went through 6 months of chemo, and, that's, it's just a horrible process. So, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Hannah, what do you think of this story?
It's awesome to watch it. If you've ever been personally impacted by a family member or a friend who's had cancer, you kind of tie into it in the emotional appeal. So it's great to see that he had that entire backbone of his team and of the fans, and not just his family, not just his close friends, but people that he didn't know, helping him raise money, helping him raise awareness. Because again, I didn't know you can get colon cancer under the age of 50, 55. So it's great to see that they're doing something for this and that he's overcome it and he's back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's awesome. I couldn't imagine, anyone with cancer going back to anything after going through that, rigorous just process is amazing. So I personally will be watching the Orioles this season, rooting him on, hoping for the best. And I think he's going to be overwhelmed by the fan support because, already with everything, they've been even buying shirts with his number on it and stuff, with his number 16 along with the word fight. They've been buying shirts and jerseys. So it's just truly a heartwarming story to see. And I really think, he's going to be a light to the Orioles this season, and hopefully he kind of helps them pick up. Unfortunately, they're not one of the best teams in the division, but I really think that, his positivity and his story, could really help them this season.
Yeah, walking onto the field for him the first time, whether it's out in right field or up to the plate, it's going to be great. And the stadium's going to be so loud.
Absolutely. I cannot wait to watch the Orioles play for sure. Now, as we said before, tomorrow is opening day, our favorite day of the year. I mean, yes. I couldn't be more excited. I've been waiting for this since last October. And, as I could happily announce the Dodgers are the number 1 seed going into this season.
They are.
I'm excited to see them. I think, I'm most excited for Corey Seager because
Yes.
I think, he's a World Series MVP last year, and I think he's going to make his run for NL MVP this year. He's a player that's been absolutely consistent, and according to True Blue LA, he led the team with 8 home runs in spring training, the most by a Dodger in spring training dating back to at least 2004.
Wow.
He also led the team in plate appearances, total bases, hits, runs batted in, runs scored. I mean, like, the list goes on. This man is an absolute asset to the Dodgers. And I think, we saw that last year. He's always been a great player, but I think we saw last year, like, oh, God, like, this guy's important. This guy's one to watch. And I really am excited to watch him play this season.
Oh, no, for sure. The Dodgers are a great team. Like you said, they're the number 1 seed, and they have a 99.3% chance of making it to the playoffs. And if they continue on the path that they're going down, they're most likely to have all-star players in every position on their lineup. So they're going to have Corey Seager, and they're going to have Clayton Kershaw, Trevor Bauer. They have Mookie Betts. They're a stacked team, and they have a great season ahead of them. The only thing that can stop them would be uncontrollable injuries, forcing them into a wild card slot.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's what, of course, I hope not, but it's not something we haven't seen in baseball many times before. So now, who do you agree that Corey Seager is going to be the top Dodger this season, or do you think someone else is going to take that title?
I have him written down as number 1. Like, the 3 that I have for possible National League MVP honors are Corey Seager, Mookie Betts, and Cody Bellinger.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's crazy. The Dodgers are just like, it's crazy. You got
They're insane.
3 Cy Young Award winners on your team. Now you have 3, you have a lot of possible MVPs coming out of your team. I mean, that's unheard of. Most teams got 1, if anything. So I think it's just absolutely phenomenal. Now, number 2 seed, which you'll be happy to know, is the Yankees. And I actually think they will finally get to where they need to get this season. They have a great starting rotation with Garrett Cole. They just added Corey Kluber. And I think that is going to set them over the edge if they use him correctly, because I feel like that's where they've fallen short so many times in these past couple of years is they couldn't keep up with the pitching. And I really think, they're going to – I feel like they've kind of honed in this year, and they're really going to – they're going to get far.
They do. They have a really strong pitching rotation with Garrett Cole coming in every 5 days, and the same for Jameson Taillon, and Corey Kluber. So they're looking to hop through their line and make it as steady as they can and as consistent as they can, which I definitely think they'll be able to do this season. So I'm very excited.
Yes, absolutely. Now, between Judge and Stanton, who do you think is going to be their real front runner this season?
I really want to see more from Stanton because he always has been injured. He doesn't normally play a field position as often as he does designated hitter. So I want to see him out in the field more often and up at the plate more often. But Aaron Judge is probably the most exciting hitter. I don't think he's going to be able to hit 52 home runs the same way he did in his 2017 rookie season, but he's a very athletic right fielder with a strong plate presence, and the way that he deals with strikeouts, with the umps, because of how tall he is, he just shows up with so much grace, and he's definitely someone who puts out what he puts in.
Absolutely, and I think, that's something that we have not seen since Stanton joined the Yankees, is that you wanted that dynamic duo. They were both the front runners for home runs, like you said, in the 2017 season. And I think you haven't seen them both kind of peaking at the same time. It's been either Judge or Stanton, then Judge is injured, Stanton's injured. And I think this season, God willing, they keep away from injuries, and that we're going to see that level of performance from them. And I think that's going to be really exciting to watch because, I'm sure, Yankees fans are wanting that. They're wanting to just enough with the injuries, enough with getting knocked down a bunch of times. Like, they want the consistency, and I think the Yankees can pull that together this season.
Exactly. It's been 12 years since our last World Series win or even appearance, and we've gotten so close the last 4 years since we've had Judge on our team. I just think they're right there, and they keep getting nipped in the bud by the smallest little things or the cheating scandals. And this year, I don't want any of it.
Yes. Now, I want to go into the World Series, but we have to address the number 3 seed before either of us could even remotely celebrate the San Diego Padres. Now, this was a team last year that almost knocked the Dodgers out of it. You know, they're a fantastic team. The battle for the NL West is absolutely going to be insane this year, and the addition of Yu Darvish makes me nervous.
It does.
I think he's a phenomenal player. What do you think?
He's probably one of the most entertaining pitchers in baseball, and he's next to Fernando Tatis Jr., he's one of their most exciting players that they have on their roster this season.
Absolutely. I really think, they had it last season. They had the team with what they were already dealing with, Fernando Tatis Jr., as much as I hate to say it, Manny Machado. They have the team, and I think they're really working on kind of like getting that fluid consistency this season. So as a Yankees fan, as a Dodgers fan, we have to be sweating because the Dodgers may not even make it to the World Series because of them, and the Yankees may not win because of them. So
they're one of 6 active franchises without that World Series title, so they have a drive to win.
Oh, absolutely. I think they're going to be hungry for it. And I think it's exciting because, everyone says baseball is boring. Well, now you have a rivalry in the NL West, at least, between the Padres and the Dodgers. So I'm so excited to watch this. But now, if we want to talk World Series with these 3 top runners, I still think the Dodgers take it this year. And that's not even me being biased. I just think we figured it out last season. They figured it out what they had to do to win. And I don't think I'm losing the word, but I don't think they're not going to do the same this season, especially with the addition of Trevor Bauer and a great farm system. I think the Dodgers got it.
I definitely think they'll play all 5 of the games in their championship series because that's how close it's going to be. But I could also see the Dodgers playing the Yankees, but I can also see the Padres playing the Yankees. So that's just something we're going to have to keep our eye on and keep watching and just keep praying that there are not any injuries.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there are 3 phenomenal teams, and I think there are 3 really strong teams, that I'd be surprised to see any other team. Maybe the Braves, if they kind of like work their way up there, maybe, but I'd honestly be surprised to see any other team end up in the finals in the end. But it's not something that we haven't seen before with the Washington Nationals making it and winning the World Series. Anything's possible, and that's the beauty of sports, is that the unpredictable can happen. And maybe the Marlins will win this year. I don't know.
Maybe they'll make it back to the playoffs. Maybe they'll surprise us.
Anything is possible, but I think this is a year where it's no one's getting in. There's a bubble of the top 3 here, the Padres, Yankees, and the Dodgers, and no one's getting in.
I really hope not.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely excited for it. So we will have to see. This baseball season starts tomorrow. I'm excited. I will be having my TV on all day watching all of the games. I know Hannah will as well.
Yes.
So as our favorite time of year begins, thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you next week to talk about the first week of MLB.